And we're starting.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's morning for me here. My name is Mireille Toulekima. I'm going to present about the subject I wrote about recently, which is the local content, and it's going to be specific to the oil and gas industry. Just to talk about me, I'm an oil and gas professional, technical professional. I'm a petroleum engineer by background. So I've been in the industry for more than 20 years now. So I've worked worldwide, in Africa, in Asia, in Australasia, on different oil and gas projects in different countries. And last year, I actually decided to write a book on, capitalizing on the experience that I acquired in the industry. The book is about local content, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So what is local content? I think what we call local content in our industry is really the added value that the oil and gas industry is generating for any country where the oil or the gas or any extractive resources is generated. And because what we've seen so far, in the past, and it's changing now, is that the oil and gas industry is kind of a very close industry. A lot of people that actually don't work in the industry don't really know what it is and what's the impact in terms of revenue or in terms of economic growth. And that's one of the reasons I basically decided to put this book together, to actually try to give more knowledge and educate a larger population on what we are doing and how this industry can actually help to grow the economy, especially in those emerging markets and developing countries that needs it. So that's basically what we call local content in our industry here. So local content in the oil and gas industry has been around for quite some time, and but it has changed formats. Previously, it used to be a very simple format. If you're an investor, oil and gas company wanted to invest in a country, you go, you talk to the government, and then if you're successful, you get the right to extract the oil or the gas or anything. In mining, I think it's the same. And the only thing you have to do, when you start to extract the reserve, or that's the way we call it in the oil and gas industry, is just pay tax and royalty and then just give money, basically. And what we find out is that by giving money to the government, it was not very efficient in terms of implementing any development or addressing any pressing challenges that the community or the population had. And funny enough, what we actually saw as well is that the gap between the have and have not would actually increase, and just a very small part of the population would actually benefit from what the money that the company or the tax that the company would give to the government in the form of tax and regulation. So it was a very, very short-term effect and really not efficient in actually giving some benefits to the wider population. So what we see right now, it's more of looking at local content and how it can actually benefit the entire economy in a country, and really looking at local content as a key enabler for government to cooperate a little bit more with oil and gas company investing in their country, and also really look at how they can bring more value to the community, to the population, and look at the long-term change in instead of being short-term focused. So when you look at local content, and here it's just a different way of saying it again. I mean, when you look at local content is basically the root of. I see it as a route to actually generate any diversification of the economy and sustainment growth. I mean, something long term for the country of operation. Why is that? I mean, it's because it can actually impact a lot of industry. I mean, it can impact, if it's well implemented, it can impact the education and the training area. It can impact the skill and expertise in terms of technology transfer, technology that foreign companies are bringing into the country. And by implementing the right local content, you can actually make sure those skills are passed to the local market. And I mean, on the infrastructure side, the money generated can actually help to also build infrastructure that are non-existent in some countries, and really give some dynamic, make the economic sector very dynamic in the service, in generated a little bit more traction for local people to actually create companies, small and medium company in industry supporting the oil and gas, like logistic or health or catering or anything. So that's really what you're really looking at. This tree growing. But at the same time, you need to have some strong roots. And what does it mean for the country itself? I mean, a local content strategy can really be a key enabler, a bridge between a strategy for attracting the right investors and also for the overall country development. I mean, what I want to say here is that if countries are actually able to put the right regulation and to really attract the right investors and tailor those regulations to the national development that they have in mind, and the way they want to address the key challenges, then it's really an outstanding tool for them to really grow and make sure whatever is generated by the oil and gas industry is widely spread through the population, and really see a growth in this case. For the oil and gas company, I mean, for them implementing and working with the government to put the right local content strategy for the country where they're operating, it's an ability, it gives them the ability to build trust with the local government. And also, I mean, oil and gas is a very competitive environment, so it gives them also a competitive advantage, and which lead to them staying longer doing business in those countries. So that's basically what I really push and propose in my book. I mean, instead of having a very static type of local content, looking at it as a dynamic thing that actually going to impact several area in the economy and really benefit the country and the companies as well. It's more about a win-win situation as opposed to company coming and just basically not really having any impact on the environment or the country where they operate. So just to put things in perspective, what is local content really getting a lot of focus in a lot of developing countries and some of the emerging markets? It's actually a very strong tool to be able to have a long-term impact in the growth of the economy. I mean, we've seen in countries like Malaysia, I mean, they've been very successful at doing that. They've used local content to actually put together the right regulation in terms of technology transfer, in terms of generating and creating small and medium companies. So you have a full sector now in Malaysia being run by Malaysians themselves, and in all those industry of support, there've been a growing impact in Malaysian participating in the economy of their countries. And another key thing, and I think that's actually very important for this forum, is that local content, I mean, by putting their local content policy, most of the countries have actually imposed human resources regulation, and one of them is the diversification in terms of gender, and also looking at more women in technical area, developing more women in technical area. So that's been a key focus in a lot of the countries as well, and also from the investing company as well. So it's something growing in the industry. There've been a lot of program for diversity, gender diversity, and also putting a program and scheme together to have more women in the industry. Another reason it's really looking at local content as a direct impact on a range of core function, such as business development. I mean, I've talked about technology and skill transfer, the procurement and operation, how it's done. And the other thing, I mean, I think the main key factor of seeing local content taken a bit more seriously now for companies is that, I mean, the environment has changed. There's a lot more company on the market. I mean, before we only had the the big companies, the big American company and European company really everywhere. Now you have independent companies, so it becomes very, very competitive, and local content can make a key difference in being the partner of choice for doing business in some countries. Obviously, I mean, everything comes with a challenge. It's not been easy for a lot of countries government and policymakers in country where we have oil, to actually be able to implement to put together those regulations and implement them and make sure they have an impact actually on the ground. So I think one key thing is that it's always very difficult for politicians and people working in the government to really see the big picture in terms of how the oil and gas industry can impact the economy. And reason being is that the oil and gas industry has always been a very closed industry, or it's very technical. So unless you are really collaborating with the companies and the people involved in the business, it's very difficult, and as a result, it's hard to put the right regulation together if you don't have the knowledge and if you don't know exactly the impact that they're going to have. So that's been one of the key challenges. And what's happening right now, a lot of government and policymakers are opening up to actually try to put law and talk to the oil and gas company to have them to transfer their knowledge and put the forums and format to make sure the government representatives are also educated on the oil and gas industry to help them in putting forward all the right regulation. As usual, and especially my experience in West Africa, politics is politicians are very present in the industry, and it's very difficult for them sometime when they have to vote and really push a regulation, even if it's the right regulation, to find the right balance between what's optimal for the country, for the community, and what is politically beneficial for them. So that's a key challenge, I think. In West Africa, I've seen it a lot. I mean, it's difficult to really do business in the oil and gas industry without taking this into account, the political atmosphere and the political environment. And the third one that I've mentioned here, the regional balance. I mean, the regional balance, I'm talking about here the community in areas where the oil and gas is extracted, and we've seen that in countries like Nigeria, where you have a community cutting pipes and really threatening workers or all kind of thing because they are not happy with the way things are managed and they're not benefiting. So there's really this key one to look at as well, to see, okay, how do we go in the ground, talk to the communities where we're going to operate, to really make sure everything is right and we don't have any problem in operating and doing business in this environment. So those are really, I mean, they are overall challenges, but I think those are the key challenges that some government and policymakers have challenged with. For the companies, obviously, I mean, they're not always there to do charity. I mean, the main objective for them is to ensure that they're making money. And so they're looking at the return on investment most of the time. So that's where it's actually sometimes very difficult to have this balance, to ensure that the local investment in liquor content also generate more business for them and generate revenue, because you don't want to just throw money to implement projects and you don't get anything out of it as well. So they try to make sure that they get something out of it. It's also very difficult when you come as an investor. I mean, there might be a business opportunity, but you find a political environment. So you have to navigate through this political environment, especially in developing countries, even in some of the emerging markets. You have to navigate in between and find how to balance between your investment in local content and not really taking side and being neutral politically. And the other key challenge is, as company, especially as our company, normally you want to actually get your return very quickly. You invest, you produce, and you really want to break even very, very quickly. But now with this tendency of government wanting to see sustainability, it becomes a different ball game. So you have to look at how to be sustainable and responsible and really maximize the impact of the community investment resources. And that's a different way of doing business, and that's a different way of putting things together. So that's something that a lot of companies have been struggling with. They are basically in between, especially as project manager. You are in the middle, you have between your board who actually look at return and dividend and what they can get from your project. And then you also have the government or the community where you operate actually want to see something concrete that they can actually benefit from. So those are the key challenges for most company. So for me, and I think that's a personal way of seeing things, is that the collaboration is really key. I mean, it's important that company, when they go and do business in certain area, that they understand the culture, they understand how things work, they understand the different gaps and they understand how business is being done to be able to succeed in doing business and implementing any local content strategy that they're looking for. Because I think when you know the gaps, when you know how things works, you can actually put something together that can satisfy the local market. And the close collaboration is very important. And one thing, and that's actually been very difficult to get from government and policymakers, is clarity on what they want. I mean, clarity on the key thing that they want to be implemented, when and how they actually measure that that's been done or that's progressing well. I think one of the things that I've seen working worldwide is that there's been a big, the government side has been lagging behind. There's basically no governance side. It's just put the regulation there, pass it on to the investors, but don't really look at how those regulations are actually being implemented and how they actually on the ground, what are the results on the ground and how they can actually readjust and redefine some of the regulations that are not working. So you've seen regulation being in place for 20, 30 years without being changed. And obviously things have changed since. And it becomes very difficult to be effective and to really generate any added value to the country. So a lot of countries are now really stepping back, looking at how those long-lasting regulations have performed and try to readjust and really cooperate a little bit more with oil and gas companies. And something that's actually very important is to have this dialogue, this continuous dialogue between government and companies, and not just have an initial contact and leave it there. So it's important that each party understand each other priority and goal, and be flexible about changing their goals or their priority to actually make the collaboration work, make the local content strategy work for everybody. And the key thing, and that's something that that's been, an error that a lot of, especially new countries, what we call frontier country, will actually just discover, just starting the extractive industry, is that they look at what's happening in a country where they've been long producing oil, and they just want to implement the same thing. And it doesn't work, because you have to tailor your local content policy to really the specific of your country. What are your problems? What are your key challenges? And that's how you actually put your national plan together and link it to any investment that any company wants to do. So that's really the focus to get a successful local content policy here. So that's, I think, so what I really, and I'm getting some technical problems here, what I really pushing for in my book is really pushing the collaboration effort. And I think that's where we women are really good in looking at collaborating and really looking at a win-win situation instead of just looking at winning all the time. And I think we can only be successful in this case by collaborating all the time. And what actually very specific to the local content, it's very dynamic. And I think what the error that we've made in the past is think that it's something static. You put the regulation together and you sit on it, and you don't really look at how you can optimize. And I think that's something that needs to be really, really looked at any time. I think can relook at your policy yearly or every 2 years. I mean, the frequency doesn't matter, but it's dynamic. Things are changing. So your local content policy should be changing accordingly as well. I mean, you have to be pragmatic. I think when I talk about pragmatic in this case, I'm talking about a specific problem that the oil and gas industry has right now. I mean, we're having a shortage of skilled engineers. I mean, a lot of engineers are actually going to retire, and there's going to be a skill shortage. So it's time now. I mean, it becomes an economic necessity to actually tap into the women pool, which is really underlooked at in the industry, to actually try to see how more women can get in this industry to actually fill those gaps that we foresee coming in 5 to 10 years. And also look at a pragmatic way to actually fast track that, so then we can continue to have a skilled workforce, and at the same time a diversified workforce as pushed right now by a lot of government. And I think, as everything, there's a degree of faith to have. I know it might be soft for this kind of industry, because each time I talk about degree of faith, they look at me and then, are you coming from a different planet? But at the end of the day, trust should be at the base of everything, and we have to be positive. And I think that's where we women, we come with an open heart and say, okay, we give you the benefit of the doubt, and then we're ready to work with you, and that's where we can capitalize on in this area. So that's basically what I wanted to say, and I mean, to link it to what we're doing, to link local content to global tech woman. It's really what we've seen, and I mentioned that when I was presenting, we've seen a lot of emphasis on putting programs and mandatory to investors to actually include women, and to actually push for a certain quota of women to be involved in the industry, and also looking at pushing it down to the education, and really put a flexible education system to allow the women to actually get this knowledge and really take part into this very dynamic and very interesting industry. And I think sometimes we women actually stop the process as well. We are intimidated, and we are very reluctant, because we think it's a male-dominated environment. I mean, there's nothing really difficult with all. I mean, we all went to engineering schools, and there's nothing we can't handle. So it's really to just go out there, be bold, and really push to really be involved in oil and gas industry, or any technical industry, as you like. And I think I've enjoyed my journey. And obviously, I mean, it comes with challenges. With I mean, you are talking just right now by unconscious bias about men, how they look at you. But at the end of the day, if you're comfortable with your knowledge and with your skills, and you really know that you can make an impact, then that's the most important thing, really. And I really encourage a lot of women to get involved. I've actually started an initiative to myself with a friend, to actually put a foundation to try to really go out there to international university to enable them to sponsor some of the very smart young ladies that I've met during my. I've met so many smart young ladies in especially in Africa, who actually couldn't make it because they don't have the resources. and there are no institution or university where they can actually get involved in the oil and gas industry. So I've made the commitment to really go out there, lobby, put something together so we can actually really go and make, and use the talent of those young girls and young adults that actually out there waiting for opportunities to do something and make a difference. So that's what I had to say. I don't know if there are questions or.
Yeah, currently there isn't any questions, but I have a couple of questions myself. Couple things. One is we need to we'll put this recording up on the website, as well as I need to get information about your book, so that we can include that, as well as the foundation that you're building, how people can learn more about that. So if I can get those, I know people who are watching this recording would be very interested in those. So I think it's a matter of exposure. I think that there's a lot of young, very bright women who think with both sides of their brain, and have that engineering slant, but also can be those ambassadors and anthropologists and negotiators and all those things that you need to be to make these types of investments a win-win for everyone. So that's an exciting opportunity, I think, for a lot of women out there who just haven't heard this before. So what would be your recommendation to a young woman out there who sees this as a potential opportunity for her career? What would you recommend that she do?
I think what I would recommend is it's really, I think it starts with getting the right skills. So because I think with getting the right skill and the right knowledge, and that's accessing any information, accessing any person that actually done it before. Because with the skill and the knowledge, you get the confidence. And as you are confident, when your confidence is there, you just can contribute so much. And I think I always tell the young ladies to get your confidence, get the knowledge, because the knowledge is everything. That's the new currency, basically. Man or woman, if as a young girl you have the right knowledge, you will make a difference, and that's very important. So first, get the knowledge around in your in your community. I don't know, in university, and then look at colleagues, male or female, to actually learn. And be patient as well, because the learning takes time, and get to use the knowledge and implement, and without any thought, I would say, just go out there and then implement what you want to do. And that's very important.
This is a wonderful session. I'm sure a lot of young women will be watching this and will be reaching out to you.
Not a problem.
I can see it happening.
Good. I'm actually happy I made a difference, because I think it's quite amazing the way I actually got involved into the industry. And I think I've been saying that to a lot of people in a lot of the interview that I've gone through. My dad was a mechanical engineer, and so I was studying in France. Obviously, he made a lot of sacrifice for me to go there, because I come from a very humble background, and he died. So I was actually studying information technology. So I didn't know what to do. So I had to go back to Gabon, and at that time, the oil and gas industry was recruiting, because I'm originally from Gabon. And I said, okay, that's the area. Let me go and see what's available. So I went to a lot of interviews. I could, at that time, speak a little bit of broken English, and it was still understandable. And I actually made it. And I was not very confident, because I said, I don't know anything about the industry, but let's go and try. And I think they were quite fascinated first, because especially in petroleum engineering, they didn't have any Gabonese woman at that time. So Shell was very, at that time it was Shell was very enthusiastic to get me in. And it happened that they had a training center in Holland. So the person who interviewed me said, you know, it's even if you don't have the skills, the oil and gas skills specifically, you have the right background, and we have this training center. We'll send you to this training center for 6 months, and you should be operational after that to actually start and then grow in the industry. And that's what I did. And it actually sent me, I mean, I've worked now in Holland, in Malaysia, in South Africa, in Australia, and I've actually managed to grow, I mean, in the industry and being become an authority, I think, and that's very important to see those opportunities coming, you know. And,
well, you are the
that's
authority.
really the message.
Yeah. And it's thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with Global Tech Women and with the community, because I think that for the right young women, this is a huge opportunity for them. And so thank you for taking the time to do this.
Okay, not a problem. Thanks for allowing the platform to share.
Oh, sure. And I hope we stay in touch. And thank you again.
We will.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.